Thanks again, Joey, Dani said as she grabbed the brown paper bag off the countertop and waved to the older gentleman. All right, Dani, be safe out there, the older gentleman said, not bothering to look up from the dough he was kneading. Making their way out of the corner store pizza shop, Dani and her partner, Clark, made their way to the unmarked car just outside. Did your dad say what this big meeting is about? Clark asked, opening up the passenger's side door. Dani shook her head as she stuffed the last of the meatball sub she'd been eating into her mouth. Clark chuckled, shaking his head. Wow, so ladylike, love it, he said, earning him a finger. The partners ducked down into the car, and with one turn of the key, the engine was alive. He doesn't tell me anything, Dani finally said after swallowing her mouth full of food. Clark huffed dramatically. What's the point of having dinner with him if he's not going to spill the beans? Clark joked. Sometimes Mom's there, and she makes my favorite meatloaf, Dani said with a serious face. Dani and Clark looked at one another for a moment before breaking out into a fit of laughter. Making their way through the streets of Queens, they headed to the police station. On the way, they swung by the little street vendor where her father normally got his coffee and picked up his usual. Jesus, how isn't that man shitting all day? Clark asked as Dani handed him the massive cup. He does most of his shitting in the afternoon. What do you think all the bullshit meetings are for? She said, causing Clark to laugh. The duo made it back to the office with 5 minutes to spare. Bullshit. If you've really got pictures, let me see, Dani heard her father say. Stepping into his office, she found him sitting on the corner of his desk, arms crossed over his chest. Marty, this isn't a fucking crotch shot of some fucking supermodel getting out of a car. This is Vinny fucking LaVine we're talking about, Jackson said, his arms crossed over his chest. Dani held up his cup, causing Jackson to smile brightly before holding a hand out. Closing the door, she handed him the cup before rounding his desk and sitting in his seat. Taking a sip of his piping hot coffee, Jackson hummed contently. He liked his coffee simple, for sugars and a single drop of creamer. According to Jackson, Big Mike's, the liquor store around the corner from the station, was the only place worth going. Once, as a joke, one of the boys in blue decided to get Jackson coffee from Starbucks, thinking he wouldn't notice. Jackson took one sip and chucked the rest of it back at the asshole. After sending him home, he called Dani and requested she get him some real coffee. You know what, Marty, I got a city to protect, so do me a favor and stop calling me with this TMZ bullshit, Jackson said before hanging up his phone. Unfucking believable, Jackson said, ripping his AirPods out and dropping them onto the desk. Easy now, big guy. These were expensive. Why don't we put them back in the case before you lose them? Dani said, speaking as though she were talking to a small child. Jackson dropped his head, his shoulders bouncing a little as he chuckled. Fuck you, Dani, he said with a laugh. Can you believe that fucking prick? Claiming he's got a photo of the faceless man, Jackson said, shaking his head. Dani laughed. Aaron McCain was the definition of insane. The journalist Reject had a habit of calling the station and claiming that he had information about high-profile criminals almost once a week. The guys wanted to bring him in and book him for making false police reports, but Jackson knew he wasn't all right in the head. The man had been through a lot: war, the death of his entire family, and then some, so Jackson liked to cut him some slack. But that didn't mean that Jackson wasn't pissed when Aaron would call him constantly day and night. Jackson tried to encourage him to use the tip line, but nope, Aaron preferred to call him direct. How he even got Jackson's cell was still a mystery, even to the FBI. I don't know, Dad, maybe those tips are worth looking into. It would be a shame if some whack job man cracked the big case of the faceless man instead of you, Dani joked. Jackson shook his head before motioning for her to get up. Trading places, he sat in his seat while she took a seat on his desk. How much do you love me, Dani? He asked suddenly. Dani laughed. He always did this when he needed something. I don't know, it depends on the ask, she said. Pulling open the top drawer to his left, Jackson grabbed a manila-colored folder and handed it to her. Can't you just email this to us? She asked, waving the folder back and forth. I mean, yeah, but the pre-shift huddle is a tradition. It keeps us together and solid, he said, causing her to roll her eyes. Sighing, she slid off his desk, making her way to the door with her father close behind.